in Navy SEAL sniper school, they will make you stare down the scope of your rifle for hours and then give you a target and you have to shoot it. You're not just shooting, you have to stare down the scope of your rifle for hours and hours and hours with nothing going on, without ever losing focus and then being able to hit the target. It's very similar to day trading. Day trading is staring at a screen, not doing anything, knowing when not to take a shot, and then performing correctly. Hey everyone, welcome to the Anarchy Podcast. 99% of traders will never make consistent profits. So why listen to the 99% of advice? On this show, we're going to challenge some of the most hallowed and repeated tenets of trading, and in doing so, set you up to succeed where others fail. Spoiler alert, we don't have a secret strategy or magic wand that will let you skip out on the hard work of learning the markets, but we can debunk viewpoints that are holding you back. If that sounds good to you, come join us. Hey everyone, welcome to the Anarchy Podcast. You've heard it before. Practice makes perfect. And in trading, practice is everything. But Jordan has some thoughts about the pitfalls to avoid when practicing trading and maybe some exceptions to that old saying. Jordan, how you doing?
Doing well, Levi. Thanks for that intro. Yeah, I think we've all heard the saying, right? Practice makes perfect. But sometimes that is not the case. And to kind of piggyback on our previous podcast where you were talking about Discord groups, the fact is, you go on a Discord group, how many people do you see that have been on there saying that they've been trading for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Goodness, I have seen and personally talked to. I mean, we had Bob on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he's been trading off and on for 20 years, right? But not been able to see consistent success. So why is that? Because if practice does make perfect, why are there people that have been practicing for 20 years, or let's say less, let's make it practical to a lot of people, 3, 4, 5 years without being able to be successful? And the reason for that, in my opinion, is because practice makes permanent. It does not make perfect. So what I mean by that is anything you do on a regular basis and you do it consistently, what does that do? Essentially, that's creating a habit, right? A habit is something that you do all the time, over and over again. And so if we practice something and we do it over and over again, we become consistent at it. Well, guess what? What happens if you are consistently losing? You're practicing losing, right? Now, there are some catches to this, right? There's some nuances to this, but I want people to really take a step back and take a thought about this, because practice is not everything. And you hear I wanted to do this podcast specifically because if you've been listening for a while, you've heard us say, you've got to put in the time, you've got to put in the hours. And yes, you've got to put in the time, you've got to put in, whatever that is, that 1,000 hours to gain mastery over trading. But if you're doing it wrong, you are literally maybe not just wasting your time, you're actually actively harming yourself. Because if you're not practicing correctly, you are actually ingraining even more into your brain bad habits that are going to make it impossible for you to be a successful trader. And that's why my wife actually asked me last week. She's like, Jordan, do you think anybody can learn to trade? And I thought about it for a minute and I went, yes and no. And that's a bit of a stupid answer, right? Like it sounds a bit confusing, but yes, in the fact that I think any single person could learn how to trade if they could get past themselves. And that I don't think is possible. I think that everyone could learn the mechanics, the technicals, the rules, everything to learn how to trade successfully. But not everyone is going to be able to master the psychology and everything else that is involved in trading. And so this is where the practice comes in. So when you're practicing, what do I mean this? What does good practice look like? So let's go there first. And good practice to me means practicing following your rules and your routine. Those and your risk management, right? Because risk management is going to be part of your rules, because those are what is going to decide whether you are a successful trader. So for instance, take myself right now. I'm currently doing a 10K challenge account just for fun. And my win rate is 50%, meaning I could flip a coin, essentially decide which way I'm going to take a trade, take it, and be right about 50% of the time. So why am I currently up 6-7% over the course of a month? It's because of my money management skills. It's because of the rules that I'm following, not because of my amazing edge, right? Like 50% right, 50% of the time. There's some very successful traders that are right 30-40% of the time. So why are they successful? Not because of some of their amazing technical analysis. Again, you could flip a coin and be right as much as I'm right with my trading. Like, you could do that. But the only reason I'm actually managing to make money is because of my money management skills and following my rules. So this takes me to, again, how do you practice correctly? Practicing correctly is not getting in front of the screen and just looking at charts. That's part of it. But I actually had this conversation with a new trader that I was giving some, or a more experienced trader, honestly, but not successful, that I was giving some advice to. And he told me, yeah, I got on my charts last night and I was looking and I took a couple trades on my demo account. And I was like, why? He's like, well, I need to get the practice in. I'm like, was it in your trading hours? Well, no. Was it with real money? No. So that was imperfect practice, right? He was practicing, but he was practicing doing the wrong things. That as day traders, especially, like, we're all day traders, we essentially want to trade, right? Like, for us, the hardest thing, I think, for most day traders is not sitting down and immediately taking a trade. And so we constantly want to be trading. And so we think, well, if I'm trading, I'm practicing. That is not true. You are practicing all right, but most of the time I would venture to say you are practicing failing. And if you keep doing that, you're going to keep having the same results, which is failing. So you need to change what you're doing.
I think one of the main things that you need to be practicing is not, like, a lot of people view practicing, like you said, as taking trades. I took
like
trades,
like we've said it, right? You've got to put the reps in.
Yeah, and so I took trades, therefore I practiced. While and we've talked about the similarities between being a sniper and being a trader, which is it's like saying, hey, I took a shot as a sniper, therefore I practiced, when the main job of a sniper is to not take shots, right? Like, what makes a really good sniper is, yeah, you have to be a good shooter, obviously. But what a sniper does the vast majority of the time is stare down the scope of their rifle for hours on end. So in Navy SEAL sniper school, they will make you stare down the scope of your rifle for hours and then give you a target and you have to shoot it. But you're not just shooting, you have to stare down the scope of your rifle for hours and hours and hours with nothing going on, without ever losing focus, and then being able to hit the target. And it's very similar to day trading, obviously not nearly as intense. No lives on the line, but day trading is staring at a screen for hours, maybe not doing anything, knowing not when not to take a shot, and then performing correctly. But what that takes is practice in being focused. And like you're saying, it just taking trades, just doing stuff isn't necessarily practice. At least it's not practicing in a way that's going to make you successful in the long run.